Hello, everybody. Welcome and thank you for tuning in to Just Bleed Radio. Today is Sunday, the 4th of May, 2025, and this is the Weekend Roundup. The UFC brought us to Iowa this week for Sandhagen versus Figueiredo, and as always, I like to do a little research on the area where the fights are taking place, and that was the state capital, Des Moines. Apparently, way back when, there was a bunch of Trappist monks living locally, and Des Moines means River of the Monks. But as a city, Des Moines really traces its origins to May 1843, when some bloke, a Captain James Allen, built a fort on the site where Des Moines and Raccoon Rivers merge. Allen wanted to use the name Fort Raccoon, however, the US War Department preferred Fort Des Moines. Bloody spoil sports. Just think they could have had Rocket Raccoon as their official cartoon character or mascot or something. I'm not sure if you really do that for states, but it sounds like something you would do. Or even that you just might like to do. The only other thing I found out was that it's the birthplace of the band Slipknot. And quite honestly, I'd rather listen to the monks singing.
Such a hater.
Yeah, fuck you, Luke Thomas. You might have to bleep that, Dave. The question was, would this card deliver a beautiful harmony of mixed martial arts skills or a discordant cacophony of donkish displeasure? Would the state that's known for insurance ensure us a fun night of fights? Could we guarantee a couple of tasty tacos to dine upon? And it's time for me to stop trying and probably failing to entertain you on my lonesome and introduce my co-hosts. The one thing I could take satisfaction from on this card was that my red-headed Canadian draft pick, Lazy's favourite female fighter, not Gillian Robertson, was going to sneak me into second place in the draft, and it was going to boot Austin into third place. No matter what happened, 5 points was good enough for me. And so, as I've just mentioned them in that order, let's say hello to a man who's fonder of hearing a crowd shout "I-O," but wouldn't expect it to be followed by a "wah." He's a marijuana mixologist who, hopefully this week, won't be bothered by barking dogs or a father-in-law barging in to collect his crew wagon. Coming to us live and direct from Ohio. Hopefully he's recovered from the beating his draft picks took last week. I won't torment him anymore. It's Lazybed. How's things today, me old mucker?
Oh, well, I'm not a huge Slipknot fan, but I have been waiting to bleed for all of you. We're in Iowa, where the people are born from the corn. So let's get creamy. I'm ready.
And of course, the other leg on this three-legged stool, or that might change a little bit later. Lazy says he's from the West Coast, best coast, but I keep telling him he needs to move east. The news is that he's moving house. The bad news for me is that he's staying in California. At least he was the last time I asked him. He's a big fan of IPAs, but I was making him jealous with my recent Belgian beer acquisitions. I don't know how many cans he crushed last night. I just hope he's had time to recover. How's it going, Austin?
Yes. To the first. Yes, unfortunately, still staying in California. It's expensive here, but I love this state. Two, yeah, I had a couple of drinks, and your third, your collection is very enticing. I would like a review of those if you can at some point. Otherwise, I'm doing great. I had fun last night.
Yeah, the cherry beer was very, very nice. Very, very cherry, as I said in the Discord. Yeah, okay, before we get started, just a message that if the force is with you, you will like and subscribe and help us build our MMA Rebel Force up to 200 members. Happy Star Wars Day, all you nerds and virgins, and it's time for us to go on to the fights. Yeah, onto the fights, and we'll start off with everyone's pick from the prelims, I think. What fun or even terrible fight do you want to talk about? And now, Austin, I'm afraid you're a little short to be a stormtrooper, but why didn't you take a shot of this first?
God damn it! All right, I could do the one where we all picked against Juliana Miller and just the ridiculousness of that fight and how none of us believed in her and she completely proved us wrong. But I'll go with Dontel Mays and how he let me down, being as the only man who picked him was me. For some reason, I completely dismissed the idea that Peterson was capable of wrestling, and I completely whiffed on it. At some point, I felt myself thinking, how's this British dude going to just go out there and try to act like he's a better wrestler? And you politely said to me, he's not actually British. He's American. Oh, wow. I didn't even bother to look at his Tapology page. I'm an idiot. I'm like, yeah, I saw him get crushed the last time I saw him fight against Shamil Gaziev, right? And then I see Dontel Miles. I'm like, all right, well, Dontel can at least hit hard. If he lands one good punch and just manages to keep the fight at range, he'll fucking, win the fight by terrible decision, possibly. But no, Peterson's like, hold my beer, Daniel Cormier, and just fucking wrestled the shit out of him. And I honestly was impressed because I was like, yeah, no, this doesn't sound right. This is not the guy I expected. And you're like, no, this is why I picked him specifically. So my hubris was picking a man who was 6'6", who just looked like a bag of shit, just not capable of stopping a takedown at all. And Peterson, who I thought was British but actually wasn't, was American. It showed his fucking wrestling pedigree. God damn it.
Yeah, the other funny one from this, we were chatting, I think after the first round, I was like, is that a 10-8? And you were like, no, it's 10-9. And I was like, it's not. They're going to score it a 10-9, but it should be a 10-8. It's just how the judges fuck things up all the time. And then the scores came back 30-25, 30-26, 30-26. Oh, yeah. Okay, the judges were on point last night.
Yeah, we were in Iowa. They scored wrestling a little higher.
Yeah, clearly, yeah. Any thoughts on that fight, Lazy?
Yeah. Not just one 10-8, but like you said, two 10-8s from the one judge. So, I mean, for at least one night, it seemed like they were accurately scoring and judging these fights. That was one of the bright spots for wrestling comprehension on the card, because surprisingly, for being a hotbed for American collegiate wrestling, Iowa was booing every grappling exchange for the entire night. They were not enjoying the grappling. Boo birds were out in full force. But yeah, it was a good win for Thomas Jefferson Peterson, if you will. I kind of foresaw it coming. Dontel Mays, like I believe the only man in the UFC to ever be heel hooked twice and lose. So not a phenomenal grappler, but the fight that I actually want to highlight, if it's okay for me to go ahead and move on to mine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Actually, Lazy, I've got bad news for you. As a bald white guy, you're pretty much reduced to being a bad guy. If you had more melanin, you could have been a cool, good guy, and you could have had a purple lightsaber too. But that's neither here nor there. So, what's your choice for the feeling? I'll let you go now.
Oh, God. All right. Well, my fight highlight is going to be Quang Lee versus Gaston Bolaños at bantamweight. This is my fight to highlight because it's a fight that I had predicted completely wrong. I thought Bolaños was going to grit this one out to a victory. You've seen me on the Discord. I was totally out of line. I'll start by saying that Gaston Bolaños, he's not some kind of murderer. He's had a questionable career. He's not got the strongest record. He was coming into this thing 8-4. He's now 8-5. He is 32 years old, but he's Peruvian, damn it. And I wanted him to win. I'm a fucking Kenny Florian stan, so I support all the Peruvians. Anyway, Quang Lee, really an equally unimpressive record himself and run. Two of his UFC fights prior to this, the only two that he's had, he lost both of them. So 33 years old as well, getting up there. But it comes into this one, short notice fill in. And that is sort of what threw me through a loop, because I really thought that Bolaños would, weather that first round storm that Quang brought. And then he would come back strong in 2 and 3, but negatory captain, that did not happen. Quang sunk that RNC in during the second round, and I knew it was over. Gaston didn't bother to fight the hands, just fucking kind of like accepted it, and I was like, yeah, this motherfucker is going to sleep. And did he ever face down on the mat, sleeping while he kisses the canvas? The second best unconscious opponent of the weekend. Shout out Sam Alvey. Maybe we'll mention that later. But yeah, just completely unforeseen on my part, and I was shocked in a good way for Quang Lee.
Yeah. I knew nothing about either of these two fighters, I'll freely admit it. But then again, Wikipedia doesn't even know anything about these two fighters either. So I feel no guilt whatsoever. I think I went with Guru's pick on this one. Austin, these are the lightweight guys. Do you have anything to say on this fight before I go ahead?
Bantamweight, but it's still, yeah. That just shows you how much I was paying attention. But I picked him, Bolaños, because Quan had like 2 additional losses in his last 3 fights. So it's like, shit. Okay. And then Bolaños has at least had to win in between the losses that he had. So I'm like, all right, well, he's got at least something that he's going off of. And I was kind of blown away by the grappling prowess of the winner, honestly, because I was like, I did not see that coming. Nor did I see the finish where he looked like he had just murdered a man and just kind of left him face down from like a crime scene and just walked away from it. Yeah, no, that seems relatively disarming. But I was yeah, that's all I had on it.
Yeah.
Damn it, my picks were terrible.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, I went 50-50 last night, which is not good for me at all. Yeah, so that just leaves me, and as I'm English, I'm automatically the villain in Hollywood. So as I'm a count, and as I can fence, and I know it's not going to end well for me, but I guess I'm Count Dooku today, which fits in rather well for my choices. It's normally red eyes that denote a Sith warrior, but my Savage warrior had red hair, and of course I'm talking about Gillian Robertson. She didn't use force push to knock over opponent. She just relied on good old-fashioned takedowns to dominate Marina Rodriguez in her final fight. Rodriguez did start round 2 with an attempted force choke, but Gillian's defense was more than up to dealing with it. And eventually she reasserted back control and started raining down ground and pound like an Imperial orbital bombardment until the ref stepped in. Obviously, great news for my draft score. And if I'd heard Gillian say she was going to go for a round 2 stoppage, I would have picked that on topology. But it's all about the draft, baby. Yeah, happy days for me. 15 points. No, no bonus, unfortunately, but I'll take the 15 points. Marina Rodriguez putting down her gloves afterwards. I hadn't honestly realized she's as old as she is. So best of luck to her in her next career. I hope Dana and Hunter throw some money the way of her cause that she talked about after the fight. Yeah, I've always had a kind of a soft spot of Marina Rodriguez. Just a shame about those angel wing tattoos on her shoulders. So, Lazy, I guess I have to put this one over to you because I know you really, really don't like Gillian at all.
No, I mean, I'm not. I don't got no real problem with Gillian. You might be confusing her with Jasmine Jasnovic. That's
the other Canadian.
Your other Canadian.
Yeah, maybe it's just you and Canadians.
Yeah. Well, you and the Canadian women in your goddamn draft are crushing it. That's not looking good for me. But yeah, man, this was a fucking good fight, and I just want to say real quick that it's a shame that we're gonna spend most of our time focusing on the main card. I know that's what we do around here, but the prelims to me were really the highlight of this event. The prelims were on fire, and the main card kind of let us down. But Gillian Robertson, man, you can't take nothing away from this chick. She is a killer. She is the savage. She is a marauder. She's a finisher. Like I said in the pre-show, this fight was full of interesting statistics. Robertson has now taken down 17 of her 19 opponents in her career. Very, very impressive. She's now tied for the second longest win streak at 125 for women. I want to point out that the Goat Shed Gym and Dean Thomas, when their fighters come together, that is a dynamic fucking duo. That is a power corner for her that really seems to be bearing fruit. Like you mentioned, also Rodriguez retiring at 38. Much older than I think a lot of people will really realize she is. She's had a long career and a lot of wear and tear on the tires, a lot of miles. So sucks to see her lay him down on a loss, but hopefully she goes on to bigger and better things and more impactful things in the world. And then last thing I want to mention, Gillian Robertson, your draft pick, Dangermouse, she ties Amanda Nunes last night for the most finishes in UFC women's history now with 10.
Yeah.
Whew. That's good company.
Yeah, get her another fight before the end of the year.
Yeah. For you,
yeah. Want to say anything on that fight or just boo at it?
No. I have nothing against Gillian Robertson. You know what's funny is that when she dropped down from 125, originally we had concerns. I know I did, considering that she wasn't the most well-rounded nor the most consistent fighter at 125. Her being in this weight class is kind of what I hoped Tatiana Suarez would have been. And I know it's kind of stretching it a little bit, but bear with me. She generally is a grappling-based fighter, right? And she's going out here, granted, against Rodriguez, and just kind of ran her over. But that's kind of what we expected Tatiana Suarez to do on a consistent basis in this division, and Tatiana couldn't do that because of injury, unfortunately. This is kind of the second coming of Tatiana Suarez. Now, different backgrounds, obviously, but still same basics. I take you down, you can't stop me, and I either damage you from top or I find a submission. And she's really good at it. And I think she found her home. And I think she gets one more win. She's knocking on the door of a title fight. I genuinely believe that. Hell, who do you put up her against? I don't know. But shit, I'm excited to see it either way. Good on her. And as far as for Rodriguez, honestly, man, she came into the game late, like you guys are saying. She had an opportunity to fight for the title and said no. Carla, I think it was she gave Carla the opportunity above her, and it pretty much backfired on Rodriguez, and she never got close to a title fight after that. It's unfortunate. Sometimes that's the way this game goes, and I wish her nothing but good. Nothing but the best for her in her retirement and her future endeavors.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, then onto the main card, and full disclosure now, because of reasons, I haven't seen the first 3 fights on the main card, but fortunately for me, Just Bleed Radio had a man in Des Moines last night. Our most valuable player, the man on the ones and twos, the one and only Super Dave Fairtex was there, and in pretty good seats from what I hear. So on this one, I could just slide into the background like a sneaky Sith and just listen to what the guys have to say about these fights. And I think what we're gonna do is we'll let Austin and Lazy alternate between going first and second, and then we'll hear what the live perception of the fight was from Dave. And so first up, we have at lightweight, Mason Jones defeated Jeremy Stevens. Unanimous decision. Who wants to go first? I know Dave has a story about this one.
All right. Well, yeah, man. Let's say first off, Jeremy Stevens, getting back in the UFC for one final go, a one fight deal, as was revealed in the build up to this fight. So this isn't going to be a renewed tenure for Stevens in the UFC. Mason Jones also making his UFC return. Welsh fighter. So one for the Valley Boys, I guess you would call them. I don't know what the fuck, the Sheepshaggers. But anyway, from the jump, man, Jeremy, that's my favorite word. I like Sheepshaggers. I like explaining that. It's fun. Okay, but from the jump, Jeremy just looked like he kind of forgot what it was like to be kicked. That was the first thing that jumped off the page to me. Mason was out there fucking kicking the calves. He was kicking the body. He was throwing them up to the head. All the kicks that he was throwing were landing, and it was just at will. And Jeremy just kind of looked a bit befuddled in that first round, like he had forgotten what it was like to be in an MMA fight, which is very possibly the case. But getting into that second round, man, they were really slugging it out. There was a period where Jones lost the mouth guard, and they were going at it for a solid 20, 25 seconds, just winging shots until he got his mouthpiece back. So tough bastard, both of them. Stevens wearing the proverbial crimson mask from some nasty elbows from Mason Jones, big step in elbows. But yeah, I mean, I pretty much called it at the end of the second round. Jones had ended the first two by taking Stevens's back, and I felt like come that third round, he was going to shoot a lot quicker, and fucking bingo, it's exactly what he did. A lot of people were mad, a lot of people were upset, but I think you got to give tons of credit to Mason Jones here, because he could have done what he did in the third round from moment one of round number one, but he made basically a virtual gentleman's agreement to stand and bang for like 10 minutes until he finally decided to fucking take down this sack of potatoes in the third. But likely the most fun fight of the main card for at least the first two rounds, I would say, in my opinion. And then Stevens, the worst takedown defense since, Dontel Mays on the prelims. Yeah. So, but yeah, last point I want to make on this. This was also Jeremy's 19th UFC loss. He is now tied with Clay Guida for the most UFC losses of all time.
Ooh. Will he stop for the 20th? By what you said there, Lazy, everyone has a plan until they get kicked in the calf.
Yeah, those kicks fucking had him shook.
Austin, what you got on this one?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, I was gonna say like Lazy's right. He just kind of looked lost out there for the first like couple of minutes, and Mason Jones is not what I would call your most dynamic striker, but he put on a pretty decent performance considering who he was up against. I mean, as limited as and yeah, as limited as Jeremy Stevens is, he's capable of finding the button, and he almost found the button a handful of times. Mason Jones got a little bit lackadaisical sometimes, but he just kept like putting out combinations, putting pressure, cutting off the cage, making sure Stevens understood you're no longer in bare knuckle, my buddy. As much as you like to think you still are, but you know, the thing that's funny is that Jeremy Stevens never really evolved, if I remember correctly. Like he's always kind of been like, even though he comes from Iowa wrestling should be a natural second, thing that he does. But you know, not everybody translates well, and honestly, even if you happen to know wrestling doesn't mean you were good at it. So it looked like he just kind of like, oh shit, I forgot this is MMA. What am I supposed to do again? Like you said. And I think the thing is too, is that you kind of looked at Stevens and remembered, oh, you know what? Yeah, he was older by the time he was leaving on his way out. And this was just a reminder of that. Like he gets submitted at the end of his UFC tenure to Mateus Gamrot. And then he also gets submitted in the PFL and then finds himself inside of Bare Knuckle FC, which he kind of had his, he found his little rhythm again. He got a little, taste of his own, glory inside of the bare knuckle fight against Jeremy. Who is it? Eddie Alvarez, right? Eddie was already over the hill, but still, you come against a young dude in Mason Jones, who I think he was a welterweight champion as well as a lightweight champion. So yeah, that's probably not the best guy to fight. And also too, probably, and I don't think this is for everybody that this happens, but the bright lights in his home state probably didn't help. Maybe, I don't know. It's sometimes, not everybody's designed to be in the main card and or perform in front of their own, their hometown fans. Not everybody likes that, and I think Jeremy kind of like forgot about that. And I mean, hey, it's them's the breaks. It's the UFC. You don't really get easy layups anymore, from what I understand. And unfortunately, Jeremy Stevens kind of found the way to lose.
The last thing that I just want to say is just terrible career management from Jeremy Stevens, because like you said, Austin, he had a good thing going in BKFC. He was becoming one of their box office stars, one of their big names on the marquee. And insider info, if you watch the podcast world leading up to this, what happened was BKFC failed to re-sign him after his final fight, the last fight that he had in BKFC, which was a win. And so more or less he was a free agent, and it was his wife that encouraged him to contact Dana White in the UFC and to go back there for one last fight in Iowa, which seems like a great idea. But in hindsight, man, you fucking threw away all that momentum you had going for a much smaller payday. I guarantee in the UFC, you're not getting what you were paid in BKFC. In front of your home crowd, just to fucking lose and take a fucking thud to your stock at this advanced age, when you could have just fucking waited to get re-signed by BKFC and kept the fucking momentum going. Now you've got to kind of crawl back there on your hands and knees and hope to get another deal. And it's just bad management from Stevens. Bad management.
All right, let's hear the real scoop from our man on the ground then, Dave. What do you have to say on this one, mate?
I have to say, for the first 2 rounds, this fight lived up to expectations. The crowd was eating it up. It was almost like fight of the night material the first couple of rounds. Stevens looked a step behind and he looked older. And but I mean, he had moments. Most of us there thought that he won round 2 and lost round 1. I will say I was sit among a bunch of locals, a bunch of like small business owners from the local region, and they were all really big Iowa wrestling guys, and they were all really cheering for Jeremy, but round 3, like a lot of the crowd was like really getting mad at his wrestling defense and being like kind of offended on behalf of Iowa wrestling about his
Yeah.
lack of takedown defense. But and that round 3 like sucked all the energy out of the room. But other than that, the first 2 rounds were great. The right guy won. I will say I learned don't cheer a losing fighter and say good job when they're leaving the octagon, because his coach gave me the I'm gonna roundhouse your ass eyes, and the security guys like, nah, don't do that. Like, and to be fair, I might have sounded like one of those assholes. It's like, yeah, good job. But I tried to be really meaningful about it, but with my level of autism, it might have came off as weird. That's all.
A good story with that one. All right, next up was the bantamweight fight between Sergey Sidy, who defeated Cameron Smotherman, unanimous decision. This was another fantastic choice on the Discord. Not a single one of us picked Sidy. And obviously I didn't see it. So, Austin, it's your turn. Take it away.
I kind of wish I only picked City to spite everybody, but I didn't even think it was worth that. And Smotherman literally had moments, and you know what? It felt like I was watching Jeremy Stevens out there, but except it was like a younger dude who just was like incapable of seizing the moment, because he literally would rock City, and Cameron Smotherman sitting there just kind of like not throwing anything out there. I mean, like we could talk about the boxing fights that literally sucked this weekend, where there was very little action going on, and this guy's out here just like, I'm going to throw a combination, hurt him on the feet, not pressure forward, and then take advantage of a hurt opponent, and then just let him kind of kickbox me outward and point fight, and literally let go of the fight, and then wonder why I lost when the decision is read, because that's literally what happened for 3 fucking rounds. Like, City's out there just circling around him, counter striking, just kickboxing his way to a pretty solid decision. He gets hurt, gets wobbly, but the dude literally gives the fight to City. Cameron Smotherman is not even pressuring at any point in the combinations that he's throwing. He just like, all right, I hit you, okay, and then just like you're looking at the fight like, what the fuck are you doing, dude? Go after him. You don't have a lot of time. You need to go and press the action. And sure enough, the City's just kind of like casually winning the fight. I don't know. I just kind of found myself like frustrated watching this fight, because neither man really should have tried to win. And I think honestly, like, I wouldn't be surprised if neither of them get any promotional push after this.
Lazy?
I'm just glad that I'm glad Austin had to go first on this one, because I have a lot of takeaways from this one. We were all on Cameron Smotherman, but we should have been on the other man. That's a fact. Sergey City, like in his previous fights, I believe he's had maybe 3 fights under the UFC banner at this point, 2 or 3. He kind of is the sort of guy that he's a fun fighter to watch, but he is not a smart fighter to put your money on or to pick. He likes to block punches with his face. He's sort of a just an offense-oriented over defense type of fighter. And last night he kind of switched gears a little bit, and he was showing a bit of evolution in the game, a bit of following a game plan. And Cameron Smotherman, like Austin was saying, he just sort of gave the fight away. It seemed like he was never quite in it, or could never quite find his groove or rhythm. And it's just sort of weird, because Smotherman kind of had the whole MMA world in a bit of like a trance, like a fog, because everywhere I looked, everything I watched, people were high on Smotherman. They were really riding him in this fight. A lot of people had bets and wagers on him, and it kind of just bit us all in the ass. And I'm not sure why we all felt that way, because looking back at it with hindsight, he hasn't had that impressive of a career. He's not exceptional in any one field, and if anything, he's shown a tendency to let fights sort of slip away, and a little bit of chinniness. So it's just sort of weird that he kind of pulled the wool over everyone's eyes, and we were all so strongly on him in this one, and proved to be a very terrible choice. But disappointing performance for another young guy that many had high hopes for. So and all I could say for Sergey City is he was giving me very strong mini less fun Dan Hooker vibes. A couple more tattoos and he's almost there.
That's a good one.
Dave, what was the cage side opinion?
Cage side opinion was, I don't know, probably not the best viewpoint because I went into this fight with, like I said, all the oxygen sucked out of the room from the previous fight. It seemed more of like a high-level sparring session than a fight from my perspective, but I think you guys nailed it on the head. I really liked Lazy's analogy about him being kind of like not as good Dan Hooker. But it was a fun fight. I really liked Saidi. I really like his striking technique, and he showed a lot of good skills. It was a boring win, but I thought his technique was fine, and it was just an all right fight to watch live. But good performance, good win. Right guy won. That's it.
Sounds like an Ian Gary school of winning fights.
Yeah, kind of.
I will say, don't look at Siri City's Tapology page unless you want to see his man meat.
Oh my!
Yeah, I just pulled it up and I was like, oh, okay, that's just right there. All right.
Okay. I'm not going to rush away to go and look.
Say,
Instead, we'll carry on. And next up was another bantamweight fight, which is yours, Lazy. Montel Jackson defeating Daniel Marcos. Again, unanimous decision, 30-27 across all three judges' cards. I'm presuming this was pretty much a solid beatdown. So why did you let me know?
Yeah, you're pretty much spot on there. It was more or less a sound beatdown, and once again very disappointed in myself because I was on Montel Jackson all week long in the Discord picks. I felt very confident about it. Just the taller, longer, heavier hitter. Of course, Montel Jackson is the man that the UFC loves to trot out the stats about his measurables. He has hands bigger than Francis Ngannou, the longest arms in the bantamweight division, XYZ. So, from a tangibles aspect, it seemed very clearly like he was going to win this fight. And I switched once again at the last minute to Marcos because, what do you know? He's a Peruvian fighter. Yeah. Did not go my way this time. Peruvian guys did not have a good night out. But yeah, it's just another fight that was a good win for Montel Jackson, but it wasn't anything spectacular. There wasn't any real highlight moments. If you were like a social media manager and you were trying to clip moments of this fight to make a highlight reel, might have a tough time, but he did win and he won handedly. One of many decisions on this card. So thanks, Dangermouse, because I know you predicted a ton of decisions.
I did.
Prediction comes true. But yeah, nothing really to remark on. So the last thing I will say is Montel Jackson is a very fun fighter, but he has a tendency to get himself into these kind of boring situations, and that's not always the most fan friendly. So I think if he would go for broke a little bit more, he could find himself, in a ranking scenario and potentially in a title scenario before his career is over. So maybe you step up the excitement level, Montel Jackson, because you've got power in those hands.
Unleash the power. Austin, what do you think of this fight?
I fucking hated it. I fucking hated it. And it's not because I don't like Montel Jackson, and I actually have a little bit of respect for Marcos. Like Daniel Marcos is that dude though who finds himself in these very particular types of fights where he's herky-jerky about his movements. He's never consistent with any of his offense. And when he does pressure, he's usually pushing people against the fence, limiting their offense, offering very little offense in his own right. And then when he does take you down, again, it's the same thing. I could take you down. You don't really get back up. You don't fight it. I just sit on top of you, maybe rain a couple of punches, not looking for a submission, hopefully just maintaining my position until the clock runs out, and then we do it all over again. Montel Jackson literally was tripping him on a regular basis, but then forgot to defend the fucking takedown when he tripped him. And then Montel Jackson is just limiting his offense for every time because he doesn't want to get taken down. So God forbid the guy with the better fucking striking doesn't know how to set up a goddamn takedown defense because all he did was fucking know how to throw trips. Great. Doesn't stop the takedown when he's down below your fucking knees. No, it was frustrating as fuck watching this fight. Come on, man. You're supposed to be a good fighter. just limit the amount of risk that you take and just counter very heavily because he was doing that on a regular fucking basis. He had him hurt. And then he said, you know what? I'm not going to finish him. It's fine. God damn it. Also, Marcos just doesn't, I don't know. He may have been on a fucking wing streak, but he's very limited. Not that great. Rant over. Right guy won.
Dave.
Yeah, these guys both kind of summed it up perfectly. Yeah, it was worse than the last fight. This was kind of a drudge to watch in person. Again, the right guy won.
Yeah,
I can't. These guys got it right. There's not really much to say about
that's
it.
cool. Yeah,
the most exciting part of the fight was there was people sleeping everywhere during that fight, and so we were all kind of looking around, counting how many people are sleeping. Like we're still recovering from round 3 of the Journey Stevens fight. Like seriously, I might have got pictures of people sleeping. Like,
who was the director guy that was cage side? Christopher Nolan.
No, that guy, Chris Nolan was Fabiano Busky.
Was that Busky? It looked literally like Christopher Nolan was there.
The translator was Christopher Nolan.
I literally thought it was him. Well, Fabiano was yawning cage side, so he was bored.
All right, we done on that one. Yeah. All right, next up was welterweight Daniel Rodriguez defeating Santiago Ponzinibbio, TKO punches, round 3, 1 minute 12 seconds. I did actually get to see this one, but nonetheless, I'm just going to carry on with it because I'm having fun here listening to you guys. So I believe it's Austin.
Well, Mouse says you would like to have it. The Argentinian loses again.
I hadn't even thought about that.
Yeah, again, I picked the Argentinian, unfortunately, in this one.
Karma. But no, like, it seemed like a good, fun fight. This is the palate cleanser, I guess you could say, because it's the feature bout, right? And realistically, this is the type of fight that the card needed because the card was supposed to be fun. This fight put it at, okay, doesn't matter what's happening. These guys, someone's going to go out, right? And they both like to stand and bang. Ponzinibbio is known to get knocked out. Daniel's been knocked out a handful of times in his last couple, and they're both coming off of wins, and they both like to bang. Sure enough, Daniel Rodriguez showed up and said, "Hold my beer, vato." Just fucking went after him, dude. And you know what? Credit to Daniel's because he got into this game late, and he had to kind of learn on the fly after being injured to kind of restructure his game. And he struggled since then. He hasn't been the same guy. He kind of had decent boxing before. Now his boxing kind of been lackadaisical and almost kind of motion more God, what's the word? Structureless is what I would say. Whereas, Ponzinibbio, Ponzi scheme is kind of the dude who kind of finds the way to win when he shouldn't and usually loses against an opponent that he probably beats. But in this case, Daniel just put his foot down on the pedal and just didn't let it off. Like he just made sure the minute I heard him, I'm not going to let him get out of my sight. And great for Daniel. Also, I didn't know he rapped, and good for him finding other things that he's doing. I like that. Good fighting. Yes.
Oh, lazy.
That's the same fucking thing I thought. I was like, what? D-Rod is a rapper now? Like, I still haven't listened to it, but I sure heard it mentioned quite a few times. So might have to go check out the new D-Rod album. Yeah, man. D-Rod is a likable guy. He's just, if you ever see him in interviews outside of fighting, like, he's just a fucking chill dude. Like, clearly the kind of guy you would want to hang out with and, like, smoke a joint, drink a couple Modelo's, whatever the case may be. But you might get into some shenanigans and some trouble afterwards, but it is what it is there. He's a cool dude. So it's really nice to see him kind of on the turnaround here because he had dropped 3 in a row and now he's won 2 in a row. So he's kind of resurrecting himself a little bit. I think that this is one of the few cases where UFC matchmaking kind of hit the nail right on the head, where they had these guys booked correctly. D-Rod's, he's not the kind of guy that's going to beat the young contenders. He's not going to, make a run or a deep push into the rankings. But if you keep him right around that 15 to 20 mark and match him up with similarly aged competitors, he's going to have good, fun fights. I didn't pick him in this fight because I felt like he was probably going to gas. And I thought that Ponzi was going to, be able to come on in the later rounds. But Ponzinibbio, he's just at that point in his career where, like, the chin is virtually all but gone. And even when he's not getting cracked, it seems like his footing is very unsure. Like, he's got the kind of footwork where it looks like he's, in the shower with soapy feet and he doesn't have a mat down. Like, he's just kind of all over the place when he's punching, when he's moving. And yeah, man, I just kind of bit him in the ass here. D-Rod, he can still crack, he can still hit hard. And, even though this was a GFL level couple of nearly 40-year-olds, guys going at it, it was still a fun fight. It was a good palate cleanser to get the main card back on track. Nice KO. The most fun part was Ponzinibbio objecting to the stoppage, and then as soon as he got up, he face planted into the cage. So
yes,
kind of hard
I
to
forgot
say.
about that.
Yeah, kind of hard to say it was a bad stoppage. But and then the other thing, D-Rod called for Jake Matthews. That's who he wants next. Sure, why not? It's not a fucking earth-shattering call out, but yeah, it's fun.
Yeah, I don't think anyone's going to object. Did this one wake the crowd up then, Dave?
It sure did. I don't remember what Daniel Rodriguez came out to, but the stereo system in the arena was just amazing, and the bass like hit really hard. So like his walkout song was really fun. It kind of woke the whole crowd up. We were all kind of grooving with it. Joe Martinez was dancing a little bit in the octagon. This whole fight ended up being a lot of fun. I know Lazy talked about Ponzinibbio kind of looking like he was on soapy feet a little bit. I did notice it looked like a lot from where I was sitting when, like a lot of the clean shots that he ate in round one, he'd almost like lose his footing for a second, almost looking like he was getting rocked a little bit. But he did have moments, but mostly this was just Daniel Rodriguez doing his thing. When it got to round two, we were kind of hoping that Ponzinibbio might, catch a second win. And, he's came back later in fights, later in his career. But Daniel Rodriguez just put him out, and it was a hell of a shot, nice combination. And, the crowd really got going. Really fun fight, a quick fight, brought the energy back in the room. Great performance from Daniel Rodriguez. I like to call out. Santiago might want to think about hanging him up, or I don't know, but
yeah,
he's getting, I don't know, he looked kind of old in there. And that's it.
Yeah, they're wheeling out the old guys for this one a little bit. Yeah, next up was the co-main at middleweight, where RDR ridded Bo Nickel of his perfect record. I've learned to have to give transatlantic lag for comedy appreciation. Yeah, Rene Derrida defeated Bo Nickel, TKO, knees, round 2, 1 minute 53. I'm a big fan of knee strikes deliver, as everyone knows. Yeah, this was just, I will say a couple of quick things on this. RDR, really, really big guy, 6'4", and he used his size really, really well. And he showed what a pro he was. He just used every opportunity to punish Bo's body with either knee strikes or short punches. And I think he just wore Bo's gas tank out, and then he landed that knee to liver, and that was it. It was good night, Vienna. And I believe it's Austin to take over this one first now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, sorry, I just had a few quick words. I'm just keeping things going.
No, you're good. I just real quick, the context of this fight was like Bo, he wants bigger names. He doesn't want cans, and they bit him in the ass. Like, you weren't ready for the top 15. This was like probably the easiest of the fights he probably could have had in the top 15. And guess what? experience is sometimes necessary. I don't know. It's just me. Bo just kind of looked like he realized pretty quick in the fight that he was facing a guy that was extremely well-rounded and extremely experienced. And you could tell that fear of, oh, I'm not athletically better than this man, and he knows a lot more than me. He's beating me up, and I don't like it. You could see that concern in his face after the first round, right in between, and then in the corner, like you could tell he wasn't used to this. Like this is like probably the first time he's been like put in a bad situation since he probably started training, and that's kind of the thing. You can't have those moments inside of the UFC when you're facing someone in the top 15. That's not good. That means you haven't been pushed enough in training, or you haven't faced enough competition, because he lost his cool, and that's what happened. RDR literally baited him in as he was trying to get him to counter strike, and then just landed a beautiful fucking knee into the solar plexus and just said, "Eat that, young buck," and put him down pretty fucking quick. And it was just beautiful to see. RDR just cool as a cucumber, honestly. He just said, "All right, I got this young buck, buck from Iowa. I'm going to put him in the grab. Eat shit." And he did. And I think this goes to what Lazy would say. Your career management is fucking shitty, dude. Like, what are we doing here? He should have fought 4 fucking times, like his entire, like, he should have fought 4 times in the 2 years he's been here. 8 fights overall inside of the UFC within the like bare minimum like requirements for middleweights. Like he should have just been getting new guys coming in from the Contender Series on a regular basis, building up his resume as far as just getting finishes or getting wins. Because then this would have been probably a better outcome for Bo, even if he still lost. Because now he's like going to be 29, going to be 30, and he's coming off of a loss to where he has to rebuild himself, and he's not going to be fighting much more, probably not this year. This is a bad position for him, and he has no one to blame but himself. That's where RDR. Great win. I would love to see him fight someone in the top 5, but we're probably not going to see that. So, hey, whoever they give him, I would like to see him fight very soon.
Yeah. Lazy?
Yeah, man. Fucking soft body Bo. Soft body Bo. Bo Nickel, a Penn State guy. Anyone that knows Penn State knows that they're very well known for their soft, seedy underbelly. So it's no surprise that Bo Nickel has one of his own, and RDR exposed it. Like in hindsight, how did people not see this coming? Like I don't know why Bo Nickel was such a favorite going into this fight. I'm not sure what people anticipated, but like, do you not know who RDR is? Like, this dude is not a chump. This guy is not some slouch. He's a big, big fucking middleweight. I mean, arguably, he's a light heavyweight, just fighting at middleweight. He's phenomenal in all realms of grappling. He's not the greatest striker, but he's unorthodox enough that his strikes are effective and they come from unique, weird angles. And it's just, it was a perfect recipe and a perfect storm for Bo to take his first loss, and that's exactly what happened. And it kind of boggled my mind all week long, even on like MK this week on I believe it was Friday. BC thought that RDR was the favorite, and he was shocked to learn that he was such a big underdog. And I don't want to shit on our guy, but people like Long Island Luke from the main card minute, and even Luke Thomas, they were a bit befuddled why BC would think that. And I think, it's pretty fucking clear. Like, the guy has like triple the fucking experience, former double champion. Just, I don't know, man. I don't know what people thought was going to happen in this fight, but this is exactly what I thought was going to happen. And Bo Nickel has not shown any improvement since his entrance into the UFC, since his multiple stints on Dana White Contender Series. He's still running with the same game plan, and it's just not getting it done. And if this is the level that he's going to compete at, I think that he's in for a very rude awakening, and maybe MMA is not the sport for him. He should be showing a lot more progress than this. Somebody that's supposedly such a blue chip talent as him, like, that was a terrible, terrible showing. And if I'm a Bo Nickel stan and a heavy supporter, I'm worried. I'm very worried.
Yeah. Dave, could you hear Bo Nickel's soul leave his body as that knee landed?
Yeah, I actually saw Bo Nickel's soul kind of leave his body about a minute into round one.
Let's go, Bo! Get him off you, Bo!
Like almost right away when the fight started, I watched the fight again on TV today, and you couldn't see it because Bo's face wasn't in the camera. But about a minute in, his back's to the camera, and RDR lands a knee that, Bo didn't like yell or anything, but you could see his like body language, and he kind of like slumped a little bit, and like you could just see in his face, it's like, uh-oh. And I'm gonna take personal credit for this win because right after that happened, I started screaming to RDR that Bo didn't like that and knees to the body. And so I mean, it was so that was really good to see. Like I didn't think that was going to happen, but I hoped that was what was going to happen. It was kind of weird before the fight. When Bo came out, he came out to a mixture of like applause and boos. RDR mostly just got booed during the walkout, but afterwards, people were cheering for him. But it was a fun fight, and I don't know. Hindsight is 2020, but I don't really think Bo fucked up that bad. Like, I mean, people are saying that, like Luke Thomas was saying, and Lazy was saying that, his development hasn't been progressing as much as it should have. And it's like, well, that's true, but it hasn't really needed to because what he's been doing was good enough and he was undefeated. And yeah, he should have been taking, lower level fights, but the UFC was giving him these guys and he was winning. So, like, what do you want to do? Like, he's still fresh in his career. This isn't that bad of a loss. Like, he kind of knows what it's like. Like, I think he was more of a athlete competitor than a fighter. And I think now he kind of knows what a real fight is like. And, if he still wants to do it, I think this won't set him back and he'll train and probably come back much better. But this was a really fun fight. I was rooting for RDR all the way. Great job. The knees, the finish, it was all amazing. His post-fight speech was pretty good, saying how he had to see if he was still Dutch or something along those lines. And he came over to our section after the win, and it was a heck of a fight. And I will say about Luke Thomas being hard on Brian or whatever happened on Friday's MK. I didn't listen, but last night on Luke's post-fight show, he did eat shit and say, like, Brian was right. I was dead wrong. Yeah, that was the highlight of my night for sure. That made the 8-hour total drive worth it. Just experience that.
Real quick before we move on, one thing that I found myself thinking last night when I was watching this fight, Bo Nickel, with where he's at in his career at this point, I was thinking of him compared to Chris Weidman when Chris Weidman was at this point in his career, being that they're both, All-American or national championship wrestlers, and that's their background to collegiate wrestling. At this point in Chris Weidman's career, he was Darce choking Tom Lawler and UDing Damian Maia. 7 fights into his career. I mean, Bo Nickel does not deserve all this fucking hype and hoopla that we're praising on him. He doesn't fucking deserve it. He needs to earn this shit more.
Agreed.
Okay. Let me find where I am again. Of course, we're on to the main event now at bantamweight. Corey Sandhagen defeating Davison Figueiredo at 4 minutes 8 of round 2.
Well, I picked Corey for a reason, and not because I didn't think Davison Figueiredo wasn't capable of winning, but just the adaptiveness that Corey Sandhagen is able to provide himself within fights that are difficult for him or against challenging opposition. Like, he's able to find, even if he's losing, a groove to stay consistently competitive. And that's what he did. Davison, for some reason, was very comfortable with going into the leg lock situation. And here's the thing. You could say it's a freak accident. You could say it wasn't intentional because of he wasn't trying to physically go after the knee in that sense, and it just happened. But the truth of the matter is he chose to engage in the leg lock situation. He was the one initiating it 90% of the time. They were even disengaged, he went back to it repeatedly. And then on top of it too, like the minute your knee is done, he did the right thing. He was trying to tap. But Corey, being the savage that he is, was like, all right, I got you now. Just started beating on his face, and a little savage, but kind of fun. But I expected Corey to win regardless. I thought Davison was kind of missing a step after that Peter Yan fight. I'm like, okay, yeah, no, that might be the limit of what he's capable of doing against this top 5 in the division. And sure enough, yeah, it showed. He's capable of getting there. He has missteps and finds himself in these positions where he makes kind of questionable decisions. And then as far as the leg break or the knee injury, you can't really put your body in a position when you're older like that, just because it doesn't matter if you're in shape. It doesn't matter if you're capable. Your body can only take so much, even if you're not putting a ton of pressure on it. I've had this situation similar to me happen, not exactly his, but your leg can only take so much. So he found himself playing with fire and got burned by it, unfortunately. Congrats to Corey. I hope he fights fucking Sean O'Malley and beats his ass.
Lazy, what do you think on the main event?
Well, first of all, it was a fun fight for as long as it did last. It was a fun affair, and that's mainly due to Corey Sandhagen. Just real quickly, I want to say that Figgy came into this 7-1 as an underdog in the UFC, in which he came into this fight an underdog. Corey came into this fight 9-1 as a UFC favorite. So both guys had success in their respective roles, betting roles. But make that fucking 7-2 and 10-1 now. Vintage fucking Sandhagen performance. He would say in the post interview that knee move, that entanglement that would injure the knee of Figueiredo, that was intentional. That was a move that they often practice from the 50-50 position with Ryan Hall, who of course is the leg lock master. So that was an intentional move, something that he said he had actually did to TJ Dillashaw when they fought a couple of years back. So fucking tore that knee up like a motherfucker. But yeah, just nasty. I'm not sure what was going on with Figgy there, developing a leg fetish at some point in that fight. I haven't seen someone hump a leg like that since my late childhood dog, R.I.P. Sparky. We miss you. Just someone said that Corey's boxing glove tattoo on his leg there, his calf, looks like a ball sack, and I can't unsee it. It looks like a burnt ball sack. Go back and check that out. But yeah, just a really good showing from Corey Sandhagen, who has a phenomenal camp behind him, a phenomenal gym, and just a guy that when he can put it all together is top tier talent in the UFC. And I think that a title shot is likely around the corner, if it's not a number 1 contender spot at very least.
Yeah. So, Dave, what do you think of the main event? How did it seal off your night?
I thought the main event was pretty good. Besides the obviously questionable game plan from Figgy, I don't recall his recent fights that much, but has he been going for leg locks a lot recently? Is that like a new thing Figgy's been doing?
No.
Well, either way, Corey was more than prepared for it, and it was kind of fun to see because it wasn't just leg locks in like 50-50 position. There was some ground and pound and some nice reversals and all that. So that was kind of fun to see, different than what you normally see every fight. I will say in round 1, I don't know if it picked up on the camera on TV, but there was times when Corey Sandhagen was on top and like in person, the ground and pound looked ruthless. Like there was a couple of us looking like Figgy can't take much of this, or this ref's going to do something. It might have not been very close on TV, but right there it looked bad. And then, kind of the similar situations happened in round 2. Corey laying, a nasty ground and pound along with all the leg entanglements and just kind of weird knee injury from 50-50. And Corey saw it, but started pounding on him while Figgy tapped the strikes. Tough loss for Figgy. He's getting older. He did really look, he's always been a big flyweight, but he did look undersized. Like in a lot of the grappling situations, it really did seem like the whole Corey big brothered him type of thing.
Yeah.
And it almost looked like that, like the way that Corey was just on top of him, up kind of high, like kind of wailing on him a bit. Like, I've been beat on that, like my brother was in it. Kind of brought up some PTSD from my younger days. But I mean, like people say that analogy a lot, but I think that was a perfect example of it. And
Nothing to worry about. Final shot.
it's a fun fight. Can't wait to see what's next for Sandhagen. Really hope he gets the O'Malley fight, win or lose, of O'Malley versus Merab. Even though, given the division, he might deserve a title shot. But I just want to see him fight O'Malley. And, as soon as the ref broke it up, man, I fucking started bolting towards the exit. So I didn't see the post-fight speech or any of that. But it was a good fight, though. Different, so.
Yeah, as Lazy said, the Ryan Hall connection was the only thing I was really going to mention. And yeah, again, I don't know exactly what's going to happen, but I guess he's going to get to play with the winner of Merab and O'Malley in the future.
It was kind of a similar tale in the co-main and the main event where you had two guys that kind of looked undersized. Figgy might be a little bit too old to maybe go back down to flyweight, but if he can, it's probably the right call. And Bo Nickel looks more like a welterweight than a middleweight.
Yeah, he looked small. I was going to say that.
Yeah, and he was one of the fighters that in person kind of was like a little bit smaller. And then just his build, like you guys talked about it a lot, so I don't really have much to say, but like I really was kind of surprised by his physique. I was like, he doesn't look chiseled or anything. I was like, maybe it's rock hard muscle like Dan Hendo from wrestling, and it just looks like that. But I think it's just I've been taking it easy or something. I don't know.
And he's the same guy that claimed he was like 222 pounds coming into fight week, like he was gonna have to cut 40 pounds. That didn't look like it, buddy. Didn't look like it.
Yeah.
No, it looked tiny. Well, we should rate the card, shouldn't we? Yeah. I was
I
rushing
was
away
gonna say
there.
we gotta rate the card.
So I'll let you go first, then, Lazy.
Well, I hadn't really put much thought into this. It wasn't the worst event I've ever seen. I could say that much. It wasn't the best event I've ever seen. Like I brought up briefly earlier, I do think that the prelims were a bit more entertaining than the main card was. And that's not the way you want your event to be structured and you want it to play out. So things kind of waned as the night went on, which is tough for a rating. But it was the return to Iowa for the first time in a fucking quarter of a century. Those fucking people waited 25 years for this night, and hopefully it was worth it. I had a fairly decent time watching. Happy to see Bo Nickel take the L and get humbled. Glad to see Corey win in the main event. I do like Corey. Yeah, it was okay, but it wasn't great. I'll give it a 6.5.
Yeah.
Yeah, so let's see. I enjoyed the fights, and legitimately I found myself thinking, you know what, it wasn't as bad as I remembered, and then I remembered that there was several fights that sucked. But yeah, that's beside the point. It's beside the point. I'll give it a solid 6.5. It was above average, but just, a little bit lacking is all. And I'll say a 6.5 for me is how I can honestly rate this card.
That's fair. I obviously didn't see the entire card. There's three fights I haven't seen still, and I may or may not go back and watch them later in the week. The one we haven't mentioned, which got a performance of the night bonus, Azamat Bokayev defeating Ryan Loder. That was a fun fight on the prelims again. Yeah, like you said, Lazy, the prelims were pretty decent. Although I think I did fall asleep during the Gillian Robertson Marina Rodriguez fight. But in my fairness, I think I've been up since about 8:30 in the morning, and this card didn't start until 12 o'clock at night. So it's another fuck you, Dana, for this one. Yeah, I can't really go as high as you two guys, I don't think, because I haven't seen those fights. In fact, no, fuck it. We'll have some we'll go all communists this week, and we'll go 6.5 from all the hosts on the show, at least the regular ones. But we need to hear from Dave because he was there. So, Destroyers, Dave, tell us how good a card it was, or
I'm
be honest.
gonna rate this card more on my overall experience at the show and the fights rather than just fight quality. And I'm gonna give it a we'll go 7.5. No, we'll go 8 as far as entertainment value and atmosphere and all that. It was a really good time. 2025 still proving a bad year for undefeated fighters with I think Daniel Marcos and Bo Nickel both losing their row. Second half of the fight night was a little slow, but the last 3 fights were fun enough, and I really picked up the action and entertainment value. So, let's go 8.5. We'll 8.5.
Yeah, no, I think that's perfectly fair. It's interesting to know that just being there really, really ramped it up because obviously I've never been to a UFC fight.
Yeah, it sure does. The lights were a bit much, and I should have brought earplugs. But other than that, it was a good time.
Yeah, and your quarter of a Budweiser was fine.
Yeah, my $15 quarter of a Budweiser, and I bought a bottle of water for $5, and then it came in a glass because they didn't want a plastic cup because they didn't want us throwing bottles. So I was kind of pissed about that because I wanted.
Yeah, I would be. Yeah, I'd be so weird about that. Yeah. I can understand not giving a glass bottle for a plastic one, really. Probably worried that you'll piss in it and throw it into the cage or something.
They did give out glass mason jars. Like all the mixed drinks were like in an Iowa Event Center glass mason jar. So it's like they'll give the fucking audience like glass fucking mason jars, but not a plastic bottle.
That's crazy.
Iowa logic.
Yeah. I guess that wraps up that card. I don't know if there's any other MMA news we want to really talk about. I'm going to have to mention that the funniest thing I saw this week was the news that Talia Santos had popped for PEDs.
Which is around very quick. I'm not sure what happens to Santos, but I'm sure we'll soon find out. That'll be all over the internet soon.
I was immediately laughing and saying, look, she can't even beat Dakota on the juice, on the sauce. And I believe it must have been on Instagram because I think it was Lazy posted it. And I'm currently banned on Instagram for some stupid reason. But yeah, Dakota basically came out and said exactly the same thing. You can't even beat Barbie on the juice.
I guess I could, on the topic of PFL, I could very briefly mention that Phil Davis back on the winning KO trail, got a beautiful knockout victory in his fight. Now moves on to the next leg of the tournament. Can't remember the name of the fellow that he's facing, but should be a fun fight. It was nice to see Phil Davis get a nice knockout victory that I actually called and predicted on the one more round fights watch along. So.
Holy shit, the straight right hand Lazy called it.
You're Mystic Bad now, are you?
For the moment.
That's it for us this week. We will, of course, be back for UFC 315, where Lazy will be at the helm, steering us through potentially troubled waters, as I hope and pray that the Aussie pirate, 3-name Jack, will be able to steal away gold from that other bloke, whatever his name is, and sink his career ship at the same time. Until then, Austin's off to get his car checked and its tires changed. The rest of us are probably going to submit to listening to some other guys talking about MMA, and Bing rips and alcohol will almost certainly be involved in that activity. So say goodbye, guys.
See you.
Bye, guys.
Later, dudes. Thanks for watching.
Yeah, and thanks for joining us, Dave. And don't forget to like and subscribe. Subscribe, everyone.
Don't forget to kiss my ball sack.
I had picked Quan only because the no, actually I didn't pick Quan. I picked Bolaños. So never mind. Retract what I said.
That's fair. I don't know how many crayons he crushed last night. That's fair. She didn't use the force push. That's fair. Dave might want to. Actually, Dave, just cut that fucking bit out. That's fair.